So I thought what I'd do today is I'll just run you through a few things that happened in the last few weeks and give you updates on where we stand. Alright, so firstly, today we went out to the pound to go and see if we can find a little doggy to adopt. So we drove down to the West Van SPCA, arrived there in all fanfare, the whole family ready to go look for a dog, and guess what? They are still closed due to COVID. Which is a little weird. But anyway, no, apparently the lady explained what happens is cats get COVID, and so for that reason they close to the public. You can't go in, you can't go and look at pets, you can only adopt online, and you have to wear a mask, and you have to do an application first before, so it's quite a long story. But she also said that they don't really get a lot of these little you know, the little hypoallergenic dogs that we're looking for in. So it looks like we are going to be back to finding a breeder. She was saying that they don't get a lot of the little Yorkies in, or the smaller dogs that's hypoallergenic. She says, and when they do get them, they literally within 24 hours they're out. She says they get 50 to 60 applications to adopt those little ones, so there's no shortage of homes for them. Yeah, so kind of looks like we're going to need to go and get a dog at a breeder, which isn't ideal, but you know, we'll see. We're going to keep on looking. We'll find the perfect little dog for the family. Anyway, that's one thing. Another thing, so I don't know if any of you remember, my visitor's visa expired to Canada. So I've got a work permit. I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to work here, but I don't have a visitor's visa, which is the actual thing that you need to come in through the airport. You can't, the work permit in itself is not good enough to enter the country unless you only come from the US. So if you go to the US and you come back from the US, you can enter with your work permit only. You don't need the visa. But from anywhere else in the world, if I leave this country, I can't come back in without the visa in my passport. Now, it's generally a visitor's visa. They give it to you for 5 years or until your passport expires, which was my problem because my passport expired last year and my visitor's visa expired last year. So I had this new passport, but I haven't had a new visitor's visa. I just have a work permit, which was a little bit of a pain in the ass, because even when I traveled to the US, when I would try to fly back on American Airlines, they looked at my passport, they said, sorry dude, you don't have a visitor's visa, you can't go into Canada. And I'm like, well, I've got this work permit here, it says on the website I can go in, blah blah blah. They're like, sorry, our system doesn't allow us to board you. Nothing we can do. So I had to fly to Seattle, rent a car and drive to Vancouver, because if you get to the land borders, they're generally much more on top of things as far as that goes. So I got in and everything. So then I decided, well, you know, just do the paperwork and apply for the visa. So I did the paperwork, I applied for the visa, big fanfare, sent it all in. They came back, they said, yes, a decision has been made, we are going to give you a visa. And we mailed the passport. I sent them the passport via the mail, they mail it back, it arrives here yesterday, and they have given me a visa until the 21st of November, which is when my work permit expires. So they've literally given me a visa for, what's it, August, September, October, a 4-month visa. See, that's one thing about Canada. With the US and other places often in the world, you know, if they screen you, well, the US definitely, if they screen you and they go, okay, we're going to give this dude a visa, they give you a 10-year visa. It doesn't matter if your passport expires in 5 weeks, they still give you a 10-year visa, because you just carry that visa with you with your new passport, and you go, hey, there's my new passport, here's my visa, we're all good. Canada doesn't work like that. Canada, if your passport expires on that day, they stop your visa there. Even if you are you know, if you are good for a 10-year visa or whatever, they don't care. They only issue it till the day your passport expires. And the same with your work permit. So now, obviously, what they did is we sent this thing in. We applied for a visitor's visa, but the CRA website, Canadian, well, not CRA, the Canadian immigration website is a little bit of a, you know, it's a, I think of it like an escape room. You know, it's like one of those things where you get thrown in and you've got to try and figure out what the hell is going on there, and it's not easy, and it changes all the time. So we went through this whole application. We asked for a visitor's visa, but in this application they also ask you if you are working here and if you have a work permit. So obviously we have to say yes, because we're not going to lie about it. And then they looked at it and they go, oh, well, you're a work permit, you have a work permit here, so we're not issuing you a visitor's visa, we're issuing you a 4-month work visa until your work permit expires. So what does that mean? That means that a month before my work permit expires, I can apply to have it extended. And if I apply to have it extended, they will then look at extending my work permit, and if they then extend my work permit, then I must reapply for a visa so that I can get another visa again. It is mountains of paperwork. So currently we've submitted our PR application under Belinda's name. It's been in for 3 months. They haven't even acknowledged that they've received it. The current online, they say the processing times for PR applications from inside the ones that we did is 27 months. Well, actually it went down to 26 months this month, so it went down a month. That's the waiting time. Then we've got my work permit, which allows us to be and work here, which expires on the 21st of November, so we need to now renew that work permit. But because Belinda has got a job and she's applied for the PR application, she can apply for a work permit, which will probably be a much longer work permit than mine, because they'll be like, hey, it's valid until your PR comes through, because our PR will come through. It's just just needs to follow the path. So that's a great option, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to apply for a work permit under Belinda's name for her job, because then it also gives me an open work permit, so I can maybe start 1 or 2 other things here. I don't only have to work on the books like I am currently at the moment. But unfortunately, the problem with that is Belinda's passport expires in July next year. So learning our lessons from past experiences, we decided to renew Belinda's passport before she applies for this work permit in her name, because obviously if she applies for the work permit in her name right now, with the passport expiring in July next year, they're only going to issue the work permit until July, and then it means we're going to need to redo all the applications again early next year. So she applied for a passport, a new passport from South Africa, which she mailed in a month ago, and they haven't even received it. So now we don't know where that is or how long that is going to take. It's actually quite funny. There's like piles and piles of paperwork. Now I think we've got a little bit more of a unique situation, obviously, because we came in with a work permit, and we're a little bit older, so things are a little bit harder. But yes, it's an ongoing amount of freaking red tape and paperwork. I tell you, it drives me nuts. Well, more drives Belinda nuts, because she's actually the one that takes care of it most of the time. But it's crazy, So the kids, by the way, the kids' passports expires in August this year. We didn't get them new passports before we did the work permit, which was stupid from our side, but they expire in August. So we applied for the 2 passports from South Africa to be renewed, I guess about five months ago already. Got all the paperwork together, mailed it in together to the consulate so that it could be sent to South Africa so it could be renewed. Angelique's went through without a hitch. 3 months later, it's here. She's got a new passport, so she's all good. Connor's, on the other hand, went to the consulate. They came back and they said, hey, this kid's almost 16, so you need to apply for his ID as well, which, okay, fine. So we put the ID up, even though online it says you can only apply for the ID, 6 months before he turns 16, and at that time it was still 8 months or 9 months before he turned 16. But anyway, so we did it. We applied for the ID, put the paperwork in, so now it's already about 3 weeks behind Angelique's, because they forwarded Angelique's to South Africa, they sent Connor's back. got fingerprints, got everything done, send it back in. About a month later, it hits the consulate, it goes all the way to South Africa, they confirm receipt. Belinda phones them and she's like, hey, what's happening with that passport? We need it fairly urgently because, I mean, August is around the corner and the kids don't have study permits because, once again, in Canada, because their passports expires in August, their study permits expires in August. So theoretically, they're not even allowed to go back to school. We need to now apply for new study permits. But those study permits, when issued, will only be issued until the 21st of November, which is when my work permit expires. So it's all these little continuous paperwork. But anyway, so long story short, phone them, they go, oh, sorry, yeah, we can't process Connor's passport because we need to process his ID first. And that's now been going on for like, I don't know, 3 months, where they're busy processing the ID. When Belinda spoke to them last week, they said, okay, the ID has now been processed, they're now going to start issuing the passport. And it just takes forever. And that passport, I mean, if that passport isn't back by, sheesh, I think it's early August, then Connor is technically illegal here. Well, technically, I mean, nobody's going to bother. They understand that these things happen, but it is what it is. We're now waiting for Connor's passport, and it might or might not come. Belinda tries to call Home Affairs in South Africa once a week to find out what's happening with the passport. And you know, for the past 4 weeks, they didn't answer the phone. She couldn't get a hold of them. It's just holding. You just go on hold. It's just nobody answers. Probably because of load shedding. Anyway, big brain dump. That's where we at paper-wise. We are here. We still have piles of papers and forms to fill out to just carry on being here. But we are doing it. We are loving it. And I'll speak to you again soon. Cheers.